Chuck Lowe, 1200 Films Podcast, Bigfoot Special number 2. Sasquatch! I found this song, and it is so awesome. But it takes a weird turn here in a little bit. I'm going to let it play until then. It's a couple more seconds. Sasquatch! Sasquatch! Now listen. Wait a minute. What? Wait, stop. We get pregnant too? Two problems. What mammal doesn't get pregnant? 2, you're bringing up pregnancy during a children's song, which means little Billy and Jeannie are going to ask Mommy, how does Bigfoot get pregnant? Then you're going to have that discussion. And if Bigfoot can get pregnant, can Bigfoot have an abortion? That's my question. Does Bigfoot have to travel 150 miles through thick terrain to find another Bigfoot to perform the abortion? Things I need to know. But anyway, let's get going with the special. Bigfoot Special number 2, Chuck Lowe, 1200 Films. We got a lot to do. We got 12 Bigfoot films, 6 regular Bigfoot horror films, and 6 documentaries. And on top of that, we've got 3, far as I know, true stories involving Sasquatch that I've heard over the years. And then at the end, my own Sasquatch song. But you gotta wait till the end. And don't be skipping. Of course, the rating scale on the bottom. Bigfoot poop. Then can't quite recommend. Okay if desperate. And nothing is going to be on okay if desperate. There's a lot of poop in this group. We'll do 3 movies, then a story, then 3 movies, and a story, and then so on. Let's start with 3 documentaries. First one from 2020, Bigfoot Encounters. You can find this pretty much for free, any multiple streaming outlets, and that's how it should be, because it sucked. It's basically an interview with, I think, 3 people that I remember. One guy claiming to be a cryptozoologist, and then 2 Bigfoot hunters. And they're sharing their stories. We find later in the documentary that one guy is a very part-time weekend warrior Bigfoot hunter. I think twice a month he goes, packs up his truck and his favorite dog and goes a mile deep in his backyard and calls that Bigfoot hunting. Nothing besides those interviews, though. It's about an hour long, and it's nothing really new. Definitely for the hardcores only. So for that, I'll say can't quite recommend. Next one, Mysterious Monsters from 1975. This actually was on Rotten Tomatoes. No critic rating, but an audience score of 60%. That's not bad. Was narrated by Peter Graves. Who is Peter Graves? Peter Graves was a co-star in the movie Airplane. He had the iconic line, he was a pilot, and when the little 10-year-old boy came up to him and started talking to him, Peter Graves asked the little boy, have you ever seen a grown man naked? And that's who's narrating this. Peter Graves actually survived until 2010. He looked old as F in this movie, but survived a long time. And the things they find and kind of assume in this documentary is pretty amazing, considering it was 45 years ago now, plus, about how the Bigfoot howls that they found couldn't be made by humans. That's been clarified as true. And how a lot about how they migrate and all this and that. And yeah, that's all been pretty much confirmed. So it's pretty impressive that they were able to find this in 1975. But but then there's also mysterious monsters. It's not all Bigfoot. There is some other stuff. There is some Loch Ness monster that you kind of have to wade through to get to the Bigfoot stuff. But like I said, it's stuff you kind of already know now. So that being said, it's okay if desperate. The next one. Stumbled across this, I don't know how. But boy, this is a piece of art. From 2021. Knievel's Quest. Bigfoot. Robbie Knievel, son of Evil Knievel, decided he's going to do a documentary where he's going to find Bigfoot. And I can guarantee you the research Robbie Knievel did for this movie was maybe watch the Patterson-Gimlin footage one time. Beyond that, 100% clueless. And half of this movie is just him driving around in his RV set to rock music. RV takes a left. RV goes around the bend. So he goes to the site of the Patterson-Gimlin footage and goes to the Bigfoot Museum and talks to the two people that run the place. And they're showing him a map. And he says, this is a map we made, and this represents, this and this here, and this is where Bigfoot was found, and this represents the tweak that. And Robbie Knievel asked them, so how big is this area? And he says, well, each square here is a square mile. And he says, so how big is this place? They literally had to explain to him how a map works. This line is 1 mile. This line is 2 miles. You go from one to the other. It's one. Oh, okay. All right. And then they were taking him through the museum. And with Bobo from Finding Bigfoot. And Bobo was explaining to him the basics, the bare basics of Bigfoot history. And he was explaining, showing the something or other. Like, that's how the legend of Bigfoot started. And Robbie Knievel replies with, you know who's a legend? My daddy. And then we get to see a 2-minute rock video of Robbie Knievel's dad jumping over God knows what, breaking God knows how many bones. Oh, and then they go to some park bench and some wherever, and Robbie Knievel has a full-length interview with Bobo, where they talk about Bobo's Encounters. That wasn't horrible. And then he jumps back in the van for another montage of him driving around. And then he says, I'm going to go meet Bobo for my second interview with him. I'm looking at the time on this. We're 1 hour and 10 minutes into a 1 hour and 30-minute documentary. Where's the Bigfoot hunt that we promised? So he talks to Bobo again. And then there's about 10 minutes left in this thing. And then they come across these guys that are basically roasting marshmallows over a campfire. And they show Robbie Knievel how to do a wood knock. And he does a howl. And that's the conclusion of this movie. Wow. I guess there's more of these? Or where Robbie Knievel goes in quest of whatever? I can guarantee you I'll never watch them. This was Bigfoot poop on fire. This was Bigfoot poop on fire being thrown at your tent. Yeah. Okay. Time for our first story. Bigfoot story number 1. Fairly common for people to find abandoned litters or babies of animals for whatever reason. The cat I own right now is actually from an abandoned litter of kittens. And but what do you do when you find an abandoned Bigfoot baby? Well, an elderly woman was walking the perimeter of her very foresty property and found said Bigfoot baby. Now, we do not know if this was a newborn Bigfoot baby or a Bigfoot toddler or just beyond a toddler, you know, the ones where they can say, I can go poo-poo by myself, that age. But she took said Bigfoot baby home. And then what happened was even more amazing. I guess the thing doubled in size after about 7 to 8 weeks. Had learned a few dozen words. Ate everything. Ate up everything she gave it to him. But then it started leaving. It started going outside for days at a time and sometimes weeks at a time. And then it would show up randomly at her house looking for food, and she would give him food. And this went on, and then eventually the woman became too old to take care of herself and had to be moved to a home. That's when she disclosed the story of what had been going on. But she did not want this public. So the son immediately made it public. And the woman was inundated with interview requests, and she's denied every single one of them and is not pleased at all that her son made this story public. And to this day, she still hasn't talked. Still won't elaborate on the Bigfoot baby she found and, I guess, raised for at least a little while in her own home. So, yep, fascinating stuff. Back to the movies, we got 2018, we got Frozen Sasquatch. IMDb has this as a 3.1 out of 10. That's a little generous, as this movie is a complete dud. The CGI snow was amazingly awful. The acting was amazingly awful, and even worse than that was the script. So these 3 people have to go to this wherever. I don't even remember. They have to go to this compound because they were doing experiments on Sasquatch, I guess. But before they leave, they had this little meeting room discussing it. And the doctor there is really douchey, we'll say. And this is the line he says. It says, "Doctor, I have a plane to catch to Argentina in 5 hours. What's with the random dramatic pauses? Just say it like a sentence. Then there was another instance where there's one woman and 2 guys. The one woman stumbled across some Sasquatch footprints. She said, "Hey, those are huge and odd." What? Obviously, they're odd if you find something randomly huge footprints in the middle of nothing. And then half of the movie takes place in what looks like it was covered in aluminum foil. Some lab. Yeah. I thought this is probably the worst Bigfoot film ever. Complete Bigfoot poop. That was until I watched the next film from 2021, Terror at Bigfoot Pond. IMDb has this as a 1.2 out of 10. I want to know, if it's 1.2, that means more than some people gave it more than 1 star. I want to talk to these people and want to know what they're thinking. This is the definition of a 1-star movie. So this group of people, and it starts with a couple, and they're traveling to meet this other small group. They're going to go camping. And the one guy that we meet first is filming the people as they're all introducing each other to each other. Did you ever call someone on your phone and they're outside on their cell phone and it's really windy and you can't really hear what they're saying? And they're like, oh yeah, so we're going to go to Burger King. And then we're going to go to this. That's how some of this was. You couldn't hear anything because the wind. So there were 6 people, and you're looking at these 6 people and says, well, the guy to girl ratio is a little off. There's 4 girls and 2 guys, and then one of the girls spoke. Apparently it's a dude. She was skinny with long, blonde Farrah Fawcett hair. Excuse me for being mistaken, okay? And then there was one guy that tried his best to look just like Bob Marley. I kept waiting for him to pull out a guitar and start singing Redemption Song, but he never did. So after they introduce each other to each other, then they decide to go skinny dipping. Skinny dipping in a pond that's about 1.5 foot deep. So some of them actually sit on their butt so it looks like they're wading in the water, and some of them just kind of half squat. Bob Marley being one. He wouldn't even put his butt in the water. He just kind of tucked his dong between his legs and squatted. And then they act like they're talking to each other, but every few seconds, a couple of them will look at the camera person to see, looking at the director, scene, is this scene done? Look, not look. Are we done? Look, not look. And then throughout the film, they were sitting by a campfire, and you could see crew members off to the side, just hanging out. You're not supposed to see them. And then there's one scene that's so amazingly unbelievable. I'll explain it to you, but you won't believe it. But it happened. So halfway through, 2/3 of the way through, they break off and to go, fornicate with each other. And the skinny blonde Farrah Fawcett guy is hooking up with a girl, and they're messing around, and she looks like she would rather be anywhere on earth than doing that scene with that guy. But then there's another couple who were outside on a blanket, and they're boning, and the guy's laying down, and the chick's on top of him, and they're going at it. And then Sasquatch walks up to the woman, breaks her neck, and pulls her off and runs away with her. And then the next shot, they're going at it. They're banging. And so Sasquatch breaks her neck, pulls her off, and then like the next shot, it's like early morning, and the guy's like, "Hey, babe, where'd you go? Where'd you go? You were humping, and Bigfoot broke her neck and dragged her away." Unbelievable. Unbelievable how things get made. So yes, this is, as of right now, the worst Bigfoot film I've ever seen. Good luck topping that. I guess we got to do another one. 2014 Stomping Ground. Critic rating, no, there's no critic rating. Audience score of 38. This girl goes to the big city and gets a boyfriend and brings the boyfriend back to her little podunk little hillbilly town and introduces him to her friends. Of course, one of the friends is her ex-boyfriend, who's very jealous, and her chubby friend. So they decide, what are they going to do to kill time and have some fun? Let's go squatching. Why not? And you know what? This was probably, of the Bigfoot horror movies, this is probably the best one. And it's okay if desperate. It had a little bit of a budget, and the acting wasn't insanely bad. So, yeah, it's alright. Time for another story. Bigfoot story number 2. Robert Sullivan released a book called The Bigfoot, True and New Bigfoot Encounters that have not been covered. So I got it, and he was right. I haven't heard of any of these stories. But one was really interesting. It's about a Bigfoot videotape. When I saw that as the title, I said, what videotape, and why haven't I not seen it? Well, here's the story. This is in the mid-90s. And this woman is going to her neighbor's who's having a garage sale because he's moving away. Some guy named Gustav. I don't know if that's his actual name. But the woman, there's a big box of videotapes. Because, VHS was a big thing back in the mid-90s. And she just says, I'll give you so much for the whole box. And the guy's like, that's fine, take it. Well, there's one video in there that was unmarked that she put in. And it's a very grainy, very dark footage of what appears to be a Sasquatch in a cage being fed a chicken. And so she goes to her neighbor and says, what the F is this? I don't think she actually said that, but I'm ad-libbing a little bit. So the guy who says, oh yeah, we dress up as animals and mess around with our video camera. And he's like, well, you weren't supposed to have that. I'll buy it back off of you. So the woman's probably thinking, he's going to offer me $10, $20, and that's fine. He offers her $5,000 for that video back. So she's like, okay, here you go. She should have kept it. But then, I guess, in the middle of the night, after he got the video back, before he had moved out, a group of people, all dressed in black, wearing masks, all went to the house and moved a big crate of something or other out into a big storage truck and took off. What was in the crate? I don't know. I think they may have been keeping Bigfoot in the basement. Because when Gustav finally moved out, there was one thing left behind. A giant king-sized mattress. And it was smelled of everything naughty. There was blood, saliva, everything was on this mattress. Bite marks, very large bite marks, claw marks, everything. It was just a mess. So the neighbor threw it out by the side of the road and says, "This I don't need this." Again, should have kept it. It had valuable DNA. So, yep, interesting story. Maybe he was pretending to be Bigfoot, but how do you explain the middle of the night visit, and how do you explain the mattress covered in gunk? That's fascinating. Another batch of Bigfoot movies. These are all documentaries. They're all by Seth Breedlove. The first one, well, IMDb has these first two as one film, but I clearly remember watching two separate films. So I don't know. The first one is On the Trail of Bigfoot. It's part of a 4-part series. The first one is called The Legend. IMDb has The Legend, and the next part 2, The Search, all as one, and has it as a 6.1 out of 10. But anyway, The Legend basically is a recap of Bigfoot history. Nothing really super spectacular. It's well made and put together, but it's nothing new. And then the next one, The Search. Not much of a search. Well, the first half hour is just kind of finishing what the first one started. And then he meets up with these people that more or less just kind of hang out in the greenest forest area ever. Everything is Irish green. But a couple of them have guns, and sometimes they wander around. And that was The Search. And then the next one, The Journey, which got a 6.6 out of 10. He has already done several Bigfoot documentaries, and in this one he kind of went back to the locations and did more interviews and kind of poked around in the areas. And then he actually did like a real night Bigfoot investigation. But it was fine. All of them are okay if desperate. They're all, what they are. There's a fourth one in this series that I have not seen called The Discovery. What do you think they discover? I guarantee you it's not much. Well, curiosity got the best of me, so I decided to find out what this was without having to purchase it, because they want like $5 for it. They find a Bigfoot nest. That's about it. Yeah. Seth Breedlove is no stranger to misleading titles. He did a YouTube movie. I'm not doing a full review of this, but it's called Sasquatch Found. Sasquatch Found. You would think with that title, you'd be like, okay, phone the neighbors, wake the kids, they found him. It says right there in the title. No, they didn't. They found a half-ass footprint. That's all they found. Stick to Seth Breedlove's other documentaries about certain incidents, certain happenings, not these overview ones that this is. But anyway, time for the final story. Bigfoot story number 3. This one I heard on Coast to Coast AM several years ago, and it was so amazing that I remembered it. When Bigfoot makes the front page of the paper, it's big news. I wish I remembered where this took place so I could see if there was any follow-up to the story. But Bigfoot is the prime suspect in a murder. So these two hunters, and what they would do, there would be this big open area, forested area, and one would shoot their gun and all the animals would corral down the valley, through the forest, through this little bottlenecked area because of how the mountains kind of set up. There was only one place for them to go. And then the little bottlenecked area just beyond the bottlenecked little area where the animals would go through, another hunter would wait behind a rock and then shoot the animals that came through. That seems kind of like cheating, but that's what they did, and had been doing it for years. So we'll call the hunter that's shooting his gun, corralling the animals, Hunter A, and then the hunter that's hiding behind a rock waiting for the animals to come through, Hunter B. So Hunter A shoots his gun a couple times, bang, bang, and the animals are coming. And they're in touch with each other via walkie-talkies. So eventually the animals come through, and then Hunter B walkie-talkies Hunter A and says, "It's a Bigfoot." And then there's a short pause, then he says, "I'm going to kill it." And then according to Hunter A, there was a gunshot. And then several seconds, there was another gunshot. And then Hunter A is frantically trying to get in touch with Hunter B, but there's no response. So he starts making his way towards him. And after a few minutes, he finally gets a response from Hunter B. And all Hunter B says is, "They're surrounding me." There, which means more than one. Which means either he hit one and pissed off the whole family, or he killed one and really pissed off the family. And that was the last response that Hunter A got from Hunter B. And by the time Hunter A got to Hunter B, he was very dead. Very, very dead. And they did an autopsy, and they said his wounds are consistent with either being harshly thrown into a tree or thrown off a 5-story building. There's a lot of Bigfoot witness reports of hunters usually seeing Bigfoots catch deers or wild boars and throw them into trees, and that's how they kill them. So that's probably what happened here. But part of me hopes and wishes that maybe they dragged this dude to the top of the tree and just chucked him. Just said, "Let's see if he bounces." Woo! So yeah, that's that story. Don't know how to explain that one, but it's another one that I find fascinating. Alright, 3 more crappy Bigfoot movies. 2020, Bigfoot the Conspiracy. IMDb has it as a 3.9 out of 10. I don't know how to describe this one. There's a killing in the forest, and then this guy tries to figure out what happens, and then the government shuts everything down, but the guy won't listen. He's still poking around. And then some young guy that knew him from his childhood says he's from the Pentagon, and he's telling him to back off. All while there's a killer Bigfoot going around. Yeah. Not the worst, but far from the best. Definitely can't quite recommend that one. 2021, Myth, Bigfoot Hunters. IMDb has it as a 2.8 out of 10. This is 5% better than Bigfoot the Conspiracy, but that doesn't say much. So these government guys are missing out in the woods. So the one government guy finds this ranger and his deputy who have experience finding people out in this specific forest, and says, "You're going to come with us and help us find these missing agents." So there's a bunch of people out in the woods. So what happens? What do you think? one by one they get picked off. Copy, cut, paste, repeat. It's all the same. But it still can't quite recommend. It's nothing new. Next one, 2019. Interviewing Monsters and Bigfoot. IMDb has it as a 3.2 out of 10. Stars Tom Green. Yes, Tom Green, who made that video that was popular 15 years ago. My bum is on the rail. My bum is on the car. That guy. He's the star. Co-star is Les Stroud from Survivor Man. And you know what? Les Stroud was probably the best actor in this movie. He's not that bad. But trying to explain this film is impossible. There's several things going on. It tries to be a comedy horror. There are a couple bits, a couple sight gags that did have me howling in laughter. But still, this was poop. Poop on a stick. Bigfoot poop on a stick. I don't know what else to say about it. So that's it. That's all I got. Hope you enjoyed that. And as promised, here is the song Sasquatch Funk. It's already on my channel if you want to watch it separately, or if you want to rewatch it again and again. But I need to make some new songs. But here is Sasquatch Funk. Enjoy and goodbye. They live in ice cold like a brown fur, that's what I'm told. One whiff and you'll hurl, you will hurl. They'll rip you to pieces. Patterson, Gimlin, found him in Bluff Creek City. Trucks out there poking around, trying to find the grass man or the Yeti. Sasquatch. Trying to find Momo or the wild man. Sasquatch. Or in Pendek in China land. Sasquatch. Riggaroo, Bigfoot, or 8-man Sasquatch. This ain't no Easter Bunny. Bigfoot says whip-a-hoo-wah. Bigfoot says whip-a-hoo-wah. Bigfoot says whip-a-hoo-wah. Cause Sasquatch funk gonna smell to ya. Cause Sasquatch funk gonna smell to ya. Cause Sasquatch funk gonna smell to ya. Then at night they roam a lot. Chuck believes the Sasquatch. 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 Stop. Wait a minute. Look at that dirt. There's a footprint in it. Plaster dip. It's low tech. Hey now, what's that stench? You can find them in Oregon, Gettysburg, San Diego, or Bay City. If they show up, you bow out. American ape ain't no sissy. Sasquatch. Trying to find Momo or the wild man. Sasquatch. Or in Pendek in China land. Sasquatch. Riggaroo, Bigfoot, or 8-man Sasquatch. This ain't no Easter Bunny. Bigfoot says whip-a-hoo-wah. Bigfoot says whip-a-hoo-wah. Bigfoot says whip-a-hoo-wah. Cause Sasquatch funk gonna smell to ya. Cause Sasquatch funk gonna smell to ya. Cause Sasquatch funk gonna smell to ya. Then at night they roam a lot. Chuck believes the Sasquatch. 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 Ho, 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 ho. Before we leave, let me tell y'all something. Sasquatch will F you up. 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 At first glance, I saw it. Squatchy was up on it. If you got a video of it, don't brag about, come show me. At first glance, I saw it. Squatchy was up on it. Then at night they roam a lot. Chuck believes in Sasquatch. 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 Chuck believes in Sasquatch.